gbogbo ẹ̀ wọ́n múra ní àtẹ bàbá ọkọ àti bàbá ìyàwó. Ìgbéyàwó tá a ṣe yìí ìgbéyàwó Yorùbá tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ọ̀gbìn nítorí bàbá ìyàwó mẹ́ta Yorùbá tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ọ̀gbìn ni wọ́n. Bàbá ọkọ Talent mẹ́ta Yorùbá tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ọ̀gbìn náà. Wọ́n mẹ́ta Yorùbá tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ọ̀gbìn wọ́n wà níbi ilé mi. So àwọn ọmọ wọn ṣègbéyàwó lẹ́yìn. The MC, you have to be mindful of the time because we are running behind time. It's close to 7 now. So as much as possible, we try to have to be mindful of the time.
Yes.
Everything we are going to be doing, we're going to bring everything, okay?
And gentlemen of the press, it is with great honor and privilege that I stand before you today on this momentous occasion of the 2023 Presidential Inauguration Lecture with the theme, Deepening Democracy for Development. In my capacity as the chairman of the Presidential Transition Council, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome every one of you to this auspicious event. First and foremost, I would like to commend President Muhammadu Buhari for his unwavering dedication to strengthening democracy in Nigeria. Throughout his tenure, he has consistently emphasized the importance of democratic principles, the rule of law, and good governance. His commitment to upholding the integrity of electoral processes, enhancing transparency, and combating corruption has been commendable. Likewise, his efforts towards ensuring the active participation of citizens in decision-making. In like manner, I welcome His Excellency, the Vice President-elect, Kashim Shettima, GCON, for gracing this occasion with his esteemed presence. His leadership and dedication and unwavering commitment to the progress of our nation have been an inspiration to all. Furthermore, I extend a warm welcome to His Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, former President of the Republic of Kenya, who has graced insights in previous occasions, and I think he will do similarly today. Your wealth of experience, Your Excellency, in governance, regional integration, and socio-economic transformation is highly esteemed, and we eagerly await the wisdom and knowledge you would impart upon us. Undeniably, Nigeria has experienced deep divisions and polarizations exacerbated by politics, poverty, and illiteracy. Political, ethnic, religious, and other fault lines have strained the fabric of our society, threatening the very essence of our unity. We acknowledge the damaging influence of hate news, disinformation, and the propagation of divisive narratives which have sown seeds of discord and hindered our socio-political development. In the light of these pressing concerns, the theme of this inauguration lecture, Deepening Democracy for Development, assumes paramount significance. It is our firm belief that by embracing this theme, we can transcend the existing fault lines and foster a renewed sense of common purpose, understanding, and shared responsibility among Nigerians. The profound significance of this lecture lies in its power to illuminate the path we must continue to traverse as a nation, deepen our democratic values, and unlock the full potential of our developmental aspirations. It is an occasion that calls for introspection, evaluation, and concerted efforts to strengthen our democratic institutions, practices, and processes. This gathering represents the essence of our collective aspirations as we come together to discuss and reflect upon the path we have traversed and the road that lies ahead. The 2023 Presidential Inauguration Lecture serves as a platform for dialogue and enlightenment and the sharing of ideas, all aimed at fostering the growth and development of our nation. Today's program events encompasses a wide array of topics that are pivotal to the progress and unity of our nation, from deepening democracy for development and integration, religious tolerance, economic growth, security, and youth inclusiveness. We have deliberately chosen these themes to provoke thoughtful conversations and generate ideas. Through robust discussions and engagement, we hope to foster a collective vision for a better Nigeria. We are therefore honored to have in our midst an illustrious lineup of speakers, each a visionary in their respective fields, who have graciously accepted our invitation to share their wisdom and insight. As I mentioned earlier, we are privileged to have the former President of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, as a speaker, who brings with him a wealth of experience and a profound understanding of the complex dynamics between democracy and development. We are equally delighted to have the esteemed Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, CFR, MNI, and the Most Reverend Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, who will enlighten us on the crucial topics of religious tolerance and inclusiveness. Their words will serve as beacons of light, guiding us towards uniting a harmonious society where all Nigerians can coexist peacefully, regardless of their religious affiliations. Furthermore, we are honored to have Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, COA, the President of the African Development Bank, who will share his invaluable insights on further strengthening of our economy during the Tinubu years. His expertise and guidance will undoubtedly foster or steer us toward enhanced sustainable economic growth and prosperity. We are also privileged to have Ms. Amina Mohammed, GCON, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, who through a recorded message will be sharing her deep understanding of the intersectionality between security and development. She will shed light on the path to achieving a secured and prosperous Nigeria. And finally, we have the youthful and esteemed Dio Israel, the national youth leader of the All Progressive Congress, who will emphasize the critical importance of youth inclusiveness in governance. His perspective will remind us of the immense potential that lies within our vibrant youth population and the need to improve them or empower them as catalysts for positive change. In conclusion, let us approach this inauguration lecture with open hearts and open minds, ready to embrace the wisdom shared by our esteemed speakers. May their insight ignite our imaginations, perspectives, and spur us to take bold and decisive actions that deepen our democracy and our journey towards may this inauguration lecture be the catalyst that propels us towards the Nigeria we continually envision, a Nigeria that thrives on democracy, embraces inclusivity, and realizes the aspiration of its people.
Cultural potential and our abundant human capital to propel the well-being of our citizens and to strengthen our voice in the global community of nations. It is sad to note that today, many thousands of our children are migrating to Europe on fishing boats, fleeing from chaos and poverty, facing harrowing dangers in search of a so-called better life. Over in Africa, about assuming our rightful place in this world as Africans. And why do I mention this? Because it's important to understand the genesis of most of. For the first time in Kenya's history, the outcome of a general election had been overturned by the courts. Whether on account of judicial activism or plain ignorance, the decision of the Supreme Court to overturn my August victory and order fresh elections was all that was needed to put the country on an extremely dangerous footing. The constitutional lacuna surrounding the lack of defined and codified rules of engagement for the operations of government in the event of such a repeat election exasperated the situation even further. As the country prepared to go back to the polls for a second time on October 26, 2017, the main opposition parties made the decision to boycott the polls, and whereas the victory of my party was all but assured, the victory came at a price. Once again, two communities had gotten their way yet again, and the much-touted tyranny of numbers had delivered another victory with staggering efficiency. Indeed, the intelligence reports in the days and weeks after the election and my subsequent inauguration pointed towards growing intercommunal and inter-ethnic unrest, more so in some hotspots, particularly in the mass urban settlements of Nairobi and in our lakeside region of our country. Our security services adopted a containment posture and did their best in preventing the situation from escalating. And as I was getting my daily updates, I was reassured that normalcy would be restored. And indeed, it became clear to me that the calm that had returned to the country had been replaced by an inexplicable sadness and a tangible despondency that had seeped into the hearts and minds of large sections of our population. There were communities that felt defeated, that they had nothing more to lose, and that they no longer wanted to associate with a country known as Kenya because they felt that they had no stake in it. I was not the only one who sensed that there was more that bellied this uneasy calm, and that something serious and possibly more sinister was slowly brewing. The economy had not bounced back at the pace we had anticipated. Investors had adopted a wait-and-see attitude. And even though my coalition had an overwhelming majority in both houses of parliament, the politics seemed to be all wrong. And all this happening at a time when I was reconstituting my cabinet, putting in place the organization needed to deliver on the remainder of our pledges to the people of Kenya. And it was then that I was reminded about the inverse correlation between our election cycles and the country's economic performance. Whenever political temperatures went up, real GDP growth came down. The facts do not lie. In 1992, after the first multi-party elections since the lifting of the ban on political pluralism, real GDP growth contracted to 0.8% from 1.4% the previous year. In 1997, it dropped to 0.4%, down from the previous 4.5%. The same thing happened in 2008, when the economy virtually ground to a standstill. The long and short of it was that after every election from 1992, our country would take a hit for up to 2 years. Things would then settle, and shortly thereafter, we would be once again in campaign mood, and the vicious cycle would readily repeat itself. This meant that during every election cycle, thousands of jobs were lost, private investment and private sector confidence would shrink, and revenues to government would be strained, with adverse effects on our national development agenda. And it was then that I made possibly one of the most difficult decisions of my presidency. And I resolved two things. Firstly, that I would deliver on my development promise no matter what. And secondly, that I would not be the president that took Kenya back into any form of civil strife. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it was not weakness that led me to seek out the leader of the opposition at the time, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. It was the appreciation that it was not about him, but rather the people whom he represented. The millions who felt excluded and marginalized by our brand of politics and the imperfections of our democracy. The things that we discussed in the days that followed and which culminated on the 9th of March 2018 in what we Kenyans commonly refer to as a handshake are the subject of another lecture. Suffice it to say that on that day, our country, Kenya, exhaled a breath of fresh air and freedom. The dialogue that began was about what we needed to do to make Kenyans feel included in the affairs of their nation. It was about how we could strengthen devolution to deliver on what the framers of our Constitution had intended. It was about how to make every Kenyan, from large or small communities, feel like the government was theirs. We recognize that when stripped down to its most rudimentary form, Kenya was simply an amalgamation of different ethnic communities trying to coexist peacefully within the borders that we found ourselves in. Time and energy towards the peaceful resolution of conflicts on our continent, I remain alive to the fact that I must continue to play a part in fostering peace in my home country of Kenya. I use my voice and my platform to persuade, especially those in power, that a dialogue with those in opposition to their victory is not a weakness, nor is it a denial of their victory, but rather a much-needed tool that creates a more inclusive Kenya and that sets a forward developmental trajectory. A trajectory that meets the expectations of all in our society. And I remind that the mentality of winner takes it all can only result in division and retardation of the national development agenda. Therefore, dear friends, as you celebrate victory of an election and prepare to inaugurate a new president, remember that your victory is not just about numbers, as Western democracies would have us believe, but that the real victory will be how you will reach out to all the voices in Nigeria and how every Nigerian, from Katsina in the north to Port Harcourt in the south, from Bambana in the west to Maiduguri in the east, how they will all feel included in your victory. And see your government as their government, your agenda as their agenda, one Nigeria, one government for all.
I'd also like to acknowledge our all this. All right. DJ, please.
One look at you, my whole life falls in line. I prayed for you.
And if I may address His Excellency, the President-elect, President Tinubu, through you, Your Excellency, Vice President-elect, I speak to you as a brother, but also as an elder statesman in leadership. The contest is now over, and the hard work of building a prosperous and unified Nigeria now begins. Upon assuming the office of president, you would be wise to transcend from the tactical politics of an election and assume your role as Nigeria's vision bearer. This will demand a complete overhaul of the adversarial mindset that we as politicians are conditioned to embrace during the electoral process. As president, you must learn very quickly to lead those who love you and those who loathe you with equal passion and commitment, because you are now the father of all. Your Excellency, when countries are in election mode, the people and its leaders are more divided than ever and boxed into their various sectarian and partisan interests. But when you are the head of state and you take command of the country's armed forces, you become the embodiment of the sum total of the many different ethnic groups, religions that make up your country, and you become the symbol of unity. Indeed, you become the face of Nigeria. I encourage you to surround yourself with the voices of those who will counterbalance the hardliners that feel entitled to a piece of your office. You will lose nothing and gain everything by reaching out across the political, ethnic, and religious lines to those who may feel aggrieved by your victory in one way or another. Please allow them to exhale and be part of your vision for a greater Nigeria. It is my hope and my prayer that the lessons from across the continent will give you the resolve to walk the difficult path of overcoming those three enemies I started by mentioning, the three enemies of nationhood: negative ethnicity, religious discrimination, and corruption. As your fellow African, I look forward to a Nigeria that emerges from this transition ready to flex and fight for its rightful place on the global stage with both hands at the ready. Your Excellency, President Buhari, I once again thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all very kindly for your attention. May God bless you all.
Note that yesterday at the National Mosque we had a lecture which captured all the ingredients, or most of the ingredients, of religious tolerance and inclusiveness. I believe I shouldn't be saying much on that. Religious tolerance is what we have been working on the last 16 years as co-chairman of NAREC, together with the president of CAN, and I believe the SGF in the last 5, 6, 7 years have been the anchor and the arrowhead of our activities, so he knows a lot, and the government too knows a lot about our works for religious tolerance and understanding in this great country, Nigeria. So I will deviate a little bit, but not too off, because most of the things I'm going to say, if you put them together with what the former president of Kenya said, you'll find a lot of similarities. So I crave your indulgence to patiently listen in the next 8, 9, 10 minutes of my presentation, even though I was given 15 minutes. We all know why we have democracy. And we call democracy a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And such democracy we are supposed to practice or to have is to ensure development, peace and stability of our people, peace and security. Coming from a tradition of good governance that is informed by an intellectual tradition, which itself is an heir of a long tradition of governance going back to the empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, perhaps my contribution should dwell on the writings of our forefathers who established the Sokoto Caliphate over 200 years ago. Being scholars, these leaders have left behind over 350 different works between the three prominent figures. I will just provide some few snippets to take us through this short presentation. On the necessity of government, for example, Sultan Muhammad Bello said, "It is certainly known that if it were not for the power of rulers, no person would have been safe in his house, let alone in the wilderness. Nor would it be permissible for any person to collect tax, and the interest of the public would not have been preserved. For this reason, it becomes necessary to appoint a supreme leader and his deputies, such as the prime ministers, the governors, and the judges of all the regions of the earth, so that the interest of religion and leadership may be maintained and the proper order of the entire world be established. If it were not for the authority of state, many people would have been killed before they could kill a single man who is legally condemned to death when they seek to obtain their rights from each other without a force to protect them. Rulers in our case are those who have been elected to govern us, govern our country or our states. If the leader follows the path of righteousness, piety will take ascendancy over his worldly desires. If he goes astray, his piety will fall victim to worldly lust. Therefore, fear God. Know that every soul shall have a taste of death, and you shall receive your full recompense on the day of judgment. Leadership is also service to the people. As Sheikh Osman Danfodio said, seeing to the welfare of people is more effective than the use of force. It has been said that the crown of a leader is his integrity, his stronghold is his impartiality, and his wealth is that of his people. There will be no triumph with transgression, no rule without learning, and no leadership with
Hello and welcome to Clearview News Desk. We are reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. First, the headlines. Clinical France maximize attack in ruthless 4-0 win against Morocco in 2023 Women's World Cup. Edo State Governor denies having personal grudges against his deputy, Philip Shaibu. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken warns against Russia's Wagner mercenary group taking advantage of instability in Niger. I am Patience Obot with these and more. Eugenie Lee Sommer scored twice as France cruised into the Women's World Cup quarterfinals, thrashing Morocco to end the African side's dream run. Goals from Kadidiatou Diani, Kenzadali and Lee Sommer put France 3-0 ahead at halftime in Adelaide, with Lee Sommer adding her second after 70 minutes. France will now face Australia in the last 8 in Brisbane on Saturday. Morocco had been hoping to become the first African side to win a knockout match at the Women's World Cup. Have Renert France stand 67 places above Morocco in FIFA's world ranking, and their superior quality was evident in the first half, with Diani nodding them in front after a neat cross from Sakina Kachawi as she scored her fourth goal in the competition. In the 20th minute, Diani turned provider, cutting the ball back to Aston Villa's Dali, who struck a low shot into the corner. And with less than a quarter of the match gone, the tie was wrapped up when Morocco's Nisrin El Chad slammed a clearance against Diani and the ball fell nicely to Lisoma, who added a third. After 0-0 draw with the Republic of Ireland on Wednesday, Nigeria as a country was projected worldwide with a big blow by the Secretary General of the Federation International de Football Association, Fatma Samora's decision that Super Falcons prize money will be paid directly to the players because of Nigeria's government irresponsibility. In this special report, Clearview News' Imefo spoke with some football coaches in the Federal Capital Territory on why FIFA embarked on this action and report that lack of trust on the part of Nigerian government officials and authorities create room for FIFA's decision.
Applauding the Super Falcons, the Secretary General of the Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, Fatma Samora, said for the first time in the history of FIFA, the FIFA Women's World Cup prize money will be paid directly to the Super Falcons. According to Samora, it has been tough and that FIFA had to face the reality of Nigeria. Similarly, after the Super Falcons earned a historic win over co-host of the tournament, Australia, a former Arsenal player and football pundit, Ian Wright, also took to social media to send out his message of support for the Super Falcons, following a continuing dispute between the players and the covering body, Nigeria Football Federation. In an exclusive interview with Clearview News Desk, some football coaches in the Federal Capital Territory said FIFA has no choice but to embark on the action because of years of corruption among the Nigerian officials and authorities. They liken it to a case of monkey the walk, baboon the chop.
When that statement was made, everybody was thrown off balance because it was as if this money wasn't actually going to them whenever they go for tournament of that nature. And you know, FIFA had to come up with this because of complaints. Clubs, countries like Jamaica, they had to go run a GoFundMe to raise money to come to this World Cup. Countries like Canada too had money crisis. Nigeria had crisis, and many of them like that. So the FIFA now looking at this whole thing, not only us, looking at this whole thing, decided to make this payment direct, but not in its real sense that, oh yeah, give me your account, let me send to you. But it will come through NFF, but then the payment will probably, maybe when they make this payment, they have to show evidence.
The message is indirectly a shame and a slap on our face. Administratively, they are telling us literally that we are not good enough to manage our, footballers, not only the females, but also the male.
For FIFA to say so, which means the NFF they are not doing the needful. Because even example,
but then it's a norm where this money comes to these players who have gone through everything to make the country proud, and sometimes this money are delayed, sometimes this money are even paid in halves, and before they get halves, they don't see it.
NFA came out with a public press conference saying that they too have not been paid by FIFA, and it is when their pause, their account is filled, they can actually leverage or pay this females national team player. And not only them, if in fact their coach, even talking of the female national team coach, has not been paid. So it's a general thing.
Well, it's all about the administration, because I think
Wages, poor travel arrangements, and the cancellation of a pre-tournament camp in a build-up of the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Imefo Nokun, reporting for Clearview News.
Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki says he has never nursed a plan to impeach his deputy, Honorable Philip Shaibu. The governor, however, noted that the move by Shaibu seeking a court order to stop his purported impeachment is preemptive ahead of his defection to the All Progressives Congress, APC. While welcoming leaders of Edo North Senatorial District, the senatorial zone of the Edo State Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu, Governor Obaseki used the occasion to explain the perceived face-off between him and his deputy. While briefing journalists during the visit, the governor said his deputy has been actively engaging with senior actors, both at the national and state level of the APC, negotiating his way into their party, and that he is at the verge of finalizing moves to defect to the APC.
Let me put it very clearly on record. He has been in close consultations with friends from another party because he is not sure that you, the leaders of PDP, were going to allow or give him the ticket.
The governor said it is sad that somebody who is part of an administration will play double standard because of personal ambition. While thanking the party members for their solidarity visit, called for steadfastness as they prepare for local government campaigns.
Thank you for this solidarity and ask that we should not be deterred. We need to consolidate our party, PDP. We need to unite our party. We need to bring everybody on board. And as we start our local government campaigns tomorrow, I will implore all of you to please join me. Let us build the PDP that will continue to dominate the politics of Edo State. We must finish well so that our people can continue to give us the mandate to rule them.
Leader of the group and former Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly, Kabiru Ajoto, said they are on the visit to amplify the voice of the majority of the people from the 6 local government areas in Edo North, as they have all taken position to stand with the governor in the ongoing crisis, which is uncalled for. A member of the National APC Supporters Center, Julius Mutajo, has been appointed the United States patron following his firm support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during the 2023 general elections. Presenting the award, the coordinator of the National APC Supporters Center, Ibrahim Batati, urged the recipients to use the appointment to advance the aims and objectives of the center in the diaspora. Clearview News' Imefonokon was there and now tells us more.
The coordinator of the National APC Supporters Center, Ibrahim Batati, who presented the appointment letter to Julius Motajo, said the gesture is in recognition of Julius Motajo's immense support to the actualization of the victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during the just concluded 2023 general elections.
Why we gave him this appointment is that our president and the new administration, they focus on investors. So, and people like him that live in USA for over 35 years, you have experience and know the good people there that have the capacity to come and do business with us here.
Ibrahim Batati therefore urged the award recipients to keep up the feat and use the appointment to attract investors to Nigeria.
This appointment being given to you now, and we are giving you power to go and get good people, good investors, good technical partners to come and move our nation forward.
Highly elated Julius Motajo expressed joy for the recognition and pledged his readiness to use his new office to the advantage of the country.
The country of almost 250 million, right? You know, people want to come here and do business with us. You know, it's not going to be business as usual that we come, you know, everybody wants their percentage. No. It's going to be direct contact with the president that this is what we have on ground.
We know his capacity, we know his ability, we know his contact, both within and outside the country. The common man will benefit from this appointment for his own friends and associate contribution. He has been doing it because we have been reaching out to grassroots, giving them palliatives on behalf of Aswaju and Kashim Shetima.
Julius Motajo's wife, Success Motajo, having rejoiced with her husband's new office, used the occasion to express thanks to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for giving women 30% appointment into his cabinet.
I want to thank our president and the vice president, Senator Shetima, for giving us, although they have not given us our 35%, but we want to thank them for giving us 30%. So we are still expecting our 5% for the women.
It is the expectation of well-meaning Nigerians that Julius Motajo will use his new office to rededicate service to the realization of the aims and objectives of the National APC Supporters Center in the diaspora. Imefonoko reporting for Clearview News.
Cross River State Governor Basi Otu has appealed to protesting members of the Nigerian Medical Association to return to their professional calling of saving lives, as his administration will leave no stone unturned in a bid to secure the return of their adopted colleague. According to Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Emmanuel Ogbeche, Otu made the plea while addressing members of the association who were on a peaceful protest for the immediate and unconditional release of the member, Professor Ekanem Philip Ephraim, who was kidnapped in Calabar. The governor also gave the assurance that his administration was working closely with the various security agencies to drastically curb, if not totally, eradicate kidnapping in the state. The governor further applauded the contribution and sacrifices of doctors in the state and promised that his administration will not be defeated by the challenges of those involved in nefarious activities. German engineering company Siemens Energy has disclosed that the revamp of the power framework within Nigeria will take 5 years more than its earlier expected date of completion. According to the energy company, the delay is due to the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic back in 2019. Then President Muhammadu Buhari, in collaboration with Siemens, unveiled a roadmap geared towards resolving existing challenges in the power sector and expanding capacity for future power needs in Nigeria. The project, which involved 3 phases, had the objective to deliver an additional 2 gigawatts to the grid to significantly reduce ATC and C losses and to achieve improved grid stability and reliability. Orulu was optimistic that the electricity output in the country would increase by an additional 2,000 megawatts at the completion of Phase 1 by 2025. The report said the delay is a big setback to the proposed reforms of President Bola Tinubu. Tinubu's first few weeks in office saw him assenting to the electricity bill, which authorized state, companies, and individuals to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity. The new electricity law repealed the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, which was signed by then-President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2005. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Russia's Wagner mercenary group is taking advantage of instability in Niger. The country has been ruled by a junta following the ousting of President Mohamed Bazoum nearly 2 weeks ago. There have been suggestions that the coup leaders have asked for help from Wagner, which is known to be present in neighboring Mali. Blinken said he did not think Russia or Wagner instigated Niger's coup. However, the U.S. was worried about the group possibly manifesting itself in part of the Sahel region. Wagner is believed to have thousands of fighters in countries, including the Central African Republic and Mali, where it has lucrative business interests, but also bolsters Russia's diplomatic and economic relations. The group's fighters have been accused of widespread human rights abuses in several African countries. Despite this, there has been speculation Niger's army has asked Wagner for assistance as the country faces the possibility of military intervention. ECOWAS, a trading bloc of 15 West African states, issued a Sunday deadline to Niger's junta leaders to stand down and restore President Bazoum. This deadline was ignored, and ECOWAS is due to hold a meeting on Thursday to decide on what to do next. If you're just joining us, you are watching the news on Clearview News Desk. When we come back, we bring you stories on women and children. Stay with us.
The news continues now with stories from our area of specialization, women and children. After the main transmission of our news, we rebroadcast on our YouTube page, Clearview TV. Do you operate a women or children's NGO? Are you at the helm of affairs of a government establishment or a corporate organization involved in the affairs of women and children? Then you are our partners in progress. We have a mission to better the lot of our women and children. Join us to celebrate womanhood and work assiduously to better the lot of the Nigerian child. This is our mission.
Welcome back. In continuation of our series, Clearview TV Profile, the rise to stardom of the world's finest creative writer who left the world of medicine to grab a degree in communication and political science, making her a prolific writer and a toast of the moment, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
I must say that before I went to the US, I didn't consciously identify as African. But in the US, whenever Africa came up, people turned to me, never mind that I knew nothing about places like Namibia. But I did come to embrace this new identity, and in many ways, I think of myself now as African.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie was born in Enugu, Nigeria in 1977. She grew up on the campus of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where her father was a professor and her mother was the first female registrar. She studied medicine for a year at Nsukka and then left for the United States at the age of 19 to continue her education on a different path. She graduated summa cum laude from Eastern Connecticut State University with a degree in communication and political science. She has a master's degree in creative writing from Johns Hopkins University and a Master of Arts degree in African history from Yale University. She was awarded a Hother Fellowship at Princeton University for the 2005 to 2006 academic year and a fellowship at the Radcliffe Institute of Harvard University for the 2011 and 2012 academic year. In 2008, she received a MacArthur Fellowship. She has received honorary doctorate degrees from Eastern Connecticut State University, Johns Hopkins University, Williams College, Duke University, American University, Georgetown University, Yale University, and a host of others. Adichie's work has been translated into over 30 languages. Her first novel, Purple Hibiscus, published in 2003, won the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, and her second novel, Half of a Yellow Sun, published in 2006, won the Orange Prize. Her 2013 novel, Americana, won the U.S. National Book Critics Award and was named one of the New York Times Top 10 Best Books of 2013. She has delivered 2 landmark TED Talks, her 2009 TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, and her 2012 TEDx, We Should All Be Feminists, which started a worldwide conversation about feminism and was published as a book in 2014. Dear Ijiwele, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions, was published in March 2017. Her most recent work, Notes on Grief, an essay about losing her father, was published in 2021. She was named one of Times Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world in 2015. And in 2017, Fortune magazine named her one of the world's 50 greatest leaders. She is a member of both the American Academy of Arts and Letters and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Ms. Adichie divides her time between the United States and Nigeria, where she leads an annual creative writing workshop.
Show a people as one thing, as only one thing, over and over again, and that is what they become.
Adichie is a testimony that if you dare
no grudges against his deputy, Philip Shaibu, who has been nursing governorship ambition come 2024. The governor said his deputy never had the courtesy of informing him about his inordinate ambition. We also told you that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that Russia's Wagner mercenary group has taken advantage of the instability in Niger, currently ruled by a junta. There have been insinuations that the coup leaders have asked for help from Wagner, which is known to be present in neighboring Mali. Like us on Facebook, Clearview News Desk. Follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online. Follow us on Instagram at Clearview News Desk. And also remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, also at Clearview News Desk. Many thanks for watching. I am Patience Obot.
Anticipated, President Bola Tinubu's list of ministerial nominees, initially made up of 28 persons, was sent to the Senate for screening and confirmation. Following the initial 28 names nominated for ministerial positions, President Bola Tinubu sent additional 19 new names to the Senate for screening as well. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, read the names out on the floor of the Senate after the screening of the first batch of names sent by the President. The second batch of the list included former governors and some other popular politicians. The new list, containing 19 names, and the recent nomination of the former Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo, SAN, brought the total number of ministerial nominees to 48. Now speaking with Biscon TV News, some Nigerians share their opinions about the list.
I feel that the youths are coming up to participate in effective governance of this country. If only the youths can be patient, it is their turn. Our local, the youths, it's their turn. I think the list is perfect.
The new ministerial nominees by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I feel we should have integrous ministers that does not have a more like a corrupt profile, ministers that have integrity, and we have a lot of good democrats out there that can really, occupy, such position and make a viable impact in the economy of Nigeria. We don't need people like more like ex-government that are coming in that don't have good profile, that are very violent, and that they are not even committed to their state before now. So why bring them in at this time? I feel you have some ministers that academically they are nowhere to be found. So why bring them in at a crucial time, in the state of the nation? I feel this is not supposed to be.
Well, I'm not too impressed about the list. Because they are just same set of people that kept us in this situation that we are in right now. So I'm not really impressed. We were expecting technocrats, but unfortunately that wasn't done. So I'm not really excited about anything. So they should, if they really want to bring us the citizens on board, they need to change the list. Since they've not been, the whole process has not been finalized. So I think they can bring in technocrats that can change things for the betterment of the citizens.
First of all, there's a kind of question I want to ask concerning the ministerial list. Now, were they aware of their ministries before it was carried out? Like, you can't just come up with, okay, I want to have ministers in my cabinet, or these are members of my cabinet. We should know. Because each of the ministers we're talking about, we need to know their portfolio, their departments. You understand? So we don't really know. I don't really know their department for now. We're just going through screening and asking questions. I think I've not really gotten what I need to hear concerning this set of people that are being brought on board, introduced to Nigerians, that these are the new ministers of the president that are going to work with them. You understand? But because the major sectors of this Nigeria is
talking about the health sectors, we're talking about security, we're talking about the educational sector, and mostly we're talking about power and infrastructure. These are the key areas of Nigeria economy. So I really want the ministers, people who are assigned to this portfolio should come out and tell us what they are about to do, what is their plans, what is their agenda, what is their blueprint for Nigeria. These new ministers I'm seeing, it's just a few of them I know. It's just a few of them I know. You understand? I could see past governors, I could see other past people who had worked with former, politicians in power. You understand? So the kind of people I wish to see in this ministerial role, I would like to see people like Obieze Kwesili. Those are the kind of people I want to see. I want to see people like Ngozi Okonjo.
On essential tips on life and living can be watched in all parts of the country now on GoTV channel 144 and live streaming on Biscon TV on YouTube. Biscon TV live streaming on YouTube is the fastest growing, most watched 24-hour live streaming channel on YouTube. Remember, Biscon TV has been moved from channel 108 to channel 144 on GoTV. Biscon TV, interactive, engaging, and unconventional.
Hello and welcome to Biscon Television for news. I am Stella Para. Coming up in the news, we have Cambodia Prime Minister's son, Han Manet, appointed next ruler in royal formality. Immigration officers suspended over fake recruitment. And CAR referendum approved by 95%, according to poll body. We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you details. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Biscon Television for news. Now the news in full. The eldest son of Cambodia's long-term ruler has been endorsed as the country's next premier in a formality confirming the transition of power. On Monday, Cambodia's king issued a decree stating Hun Manet will succeed Hun Sen, who has ruled for 38 years. Hun Sen announced he would step down just days after the 23 July election, which critics said was not democratic. His party won all but 5 seats in parliament after the main opposition was barred from the votes. King Norodom Sihamoni issued the royal decree after Hun Sen sent a letter requesting the official note. Hun Manet, 45, who until recently was the commander of the Royal Cambodian Army, has long been groomed for the leadership role. His appointment still needs to be confirmed by Parliament on 22nd August, but it is expected to sail through a National Assembly where 120 of 125 seats are controlled by Hun Sen's Cambodian People's Party. The appointment follows a dynastic succession plan which had been signposted by Hun Sen for several years. Hun Manet people, the largest in attendance, arrived in the campsite near the town of Buan last week, but were transferred to hotels in the capital Seoul on Saturday. Mr. Hyde said the relocation will cost the UK Scout Association well over £1 million from its reserves. The US and Singapore have also already pulled their teams from the campsite. World Scouts Jamboree organizers said on Monday that executed. None of the suspended employees have publicly responded to the allegations. Last year, the Immigration Service warned the public against falling prey to fake social media recruitment accounts set up to extort money from gullible individuals, indicating that it was not part of the procedures for hiring employees. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue with the rest of the news. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Biscon Television Foreign News. Now to the rest of the news. An overwhelming majority approved the changes to the constitution in the Central African Republic, with over 95% of the votes. The committee in charge of overseeing the referendum said in its provisional results. Opposition parties and some civil society groups boycotted the vote, saying the amended law was designed to keep President Faustin Archange Touadera in power for life. They said the referendum lacked transparency and there was limited time given to debate its provisions. The proposed law abolishes the presidential two-term limit and extends the term in office from 5 to 7 years. It also bans politicians withdraw the office of the vice president to be appointed by the president. The Senate will be scrapped, transforming Parliament to a single chamber. The number of Supreme Court judges have been increased from 9 to 11, and the President and the National Assembly can now select 3 judges each. Previously, they could only select 1 each. The President and the members of his United Heart have struggled to quash rebel groups that have controlled large swathes of the country since he came into power in 2016. A spill from another rebellion in 2013 which ousted former President Francois Bozize. Now Niger's coup leaders have closed the country's airspace until further notice, citing the threat of military intervention from their neighbors. It comes after the ECOWAS group of West African states demanded President and Air France suspended all flights. Mali and Burkina Faso both also ruled by juntas following recent day to warn its citizens against traveling to this site, preparing to attack the country after military chiefs. And finally, 3 people have died following a helicopter crash during a firefighting mission in the U.S. state of California. The incident happened on Sunday evening after fighting with one. Then an investigation has been launched into the cause of the crash by the National Transportation Safety Board. The victims were identified as a fire captain and division chief.
And it's also a hobby. When my mother was definitely stylish. I remember the wives of the house, the wives of the house, wives of uncles.
End of quote.
You must do to others as you want them to do to you. And all this in context of the fear of God, of the omnipotent, some supreme being, no matter what we call him. We call him different names. We even reach out to him in different ways. But it's only one Almighty that. And if you believe that that Almighty is the diviner of everybody's life, then, we will know that when we treat each other nicely, with love, with compassion, then our life will be a great success.
Erelu Abiola Dosumu Kute took us on a trajectory of her childhood. She said she had a noble and interesting upbringing, which shaped her into who she is today.
My growing up was really very positive. I had a very happy home where everybody cared and loved each other. School was good, boarding house was good. The first year of boarding house was tough, but after getting used to the environment, one became a champion of the oppressed and being a center of most things happening at college. You know. For me, growing up was beautiful, was great, and I remember an uncle of mine. When a situation is supposed to be stressful and almost impossible to handle, I take it in my stride, and he will look at me and other people I come across of the doubt, and I will treat you with utmost courtesy and with affection.
When asked how she feels clocking the age of 70, Erelu Abiola Dosunmu said she is grateful to God for bringing her this far, adding that she has been able to maintain a healthy life through proper time management. She said her typical day ends at 7 p.m., after which she doesn't entertain visitors because she needs solitude to reminisce on the day's event and relax from the stress of the day.
Some people get tired listening to what I do in a day, but frankly, I don't know what to give appointment to anyone beyond 7 p.m. because by 7 p.m. I want to start unwinding, unless I have to go to dinner or something specific is happening. But the mundane day-to-day meetings and all that, I try not to go beyond 7 p.m. so I can have some quality time for myself and of course appraisal of what has gone throughout the day. And of course, between all of this, you have to find time for yourself to do your hair, to do some of your beauty routines, you know, and well, all in all, it's okay. It's what makes life exciting.
When asked how the journey has been so far, being the Erelu Kuti of Lagos, she said she has received a lot of criticisms from the public for her non-interested involvement in politics. Princess Abiola Dosunmu said she will do everything in her power to serve her people and will contribute her widow's mite to the development of the society.
Have questioned the fact that I didn't go into politics. In fact, sometimes they even chastise me for not going into politics because they believe I can make contribution towards positive contribution. But my answer has always been that I would not change